everybody. I am just starting a new practice on my Patreon that I want to invite you to before I read my pages today. And it was suggested by a friend of mine. I've been trying to figure out how I share my personal work in a way that feels authentic and like I can bring my full self to. And so I've been finding a practice of sharing my pages and process online, mostly on my personal Instagram, but now also on YouTube and a little bit on Facebook. And I'm kind of finding the platform or platforms that feels best for me to continually to show up in. And so here today, my intention with recording this is to be able to start posting these on YouTube a little bit more, as opposed to mostly through lives on Instagram, which I don't think I'll give up completely, but I want to, but it feels like that might be a more like consistent way that would feel good for me to move forward in the practice of that, at least, for right now. So with that being said, on my Patreon, it's just kind of like a little hub for me to feel safe and kind of regulated. I find that sharing the work I've done seems to be easier for me than sharing the process by which I'm creating the work, and inviting people in to practice with me. So in my Patreon, there's a $5, $10, and $15 options if you'd like to either support my work and or enter into a little bit more of a practice. I might intermittently share some practice sometimes online here as well on YouTube, but my intention is to foster that practice of working with a forum that feels inclusive and energetically reciprocal, because there is our pledges that go along with that. So it feels like there's some posterity coming back to me, and that feels good right now with where I'm at. So if you'd like to support my work there, I would love to have you. And here are my pages for today, June 30th, 2021. This came out of the practice that I worked through today on Patreon, that I invited Patreon members to be a part of. So if you'd like to be a part of that, hop on over. Okay. Finding a way forward, utilizing my Patreon as a safe space to be in practice with others. Finding a way forward to build a bridge of resiliency and kindness for myself. Finding a way forward to be present to the space and the place and space of purpose and a kind, wanton motion of my heart. There is a guide, a presence to be held and used and utilized, a way to move that allows you to be at the edge of where you're at and move beyond the flow of kindness that shows and showers something to be present and unaware. The living life of solace was something to be seen and shown in light of resiliency. I love to write, and I love a way into being that has been tepid and drawn into a space of forever home. The surprise of following through is a kind of space with new toxicity, all the old ways and stays of being, a forever home in myself, a way to be presently embodied, forever attuned to the love and life of my own body. A fear of friends. I have a fear of followers and friends. A fear of being taken for a ride, taken advantage of, and shown for something ignorant and used. My forward motion finds a way through. The light of a moment begins and ends and sorts its way into an existence that blends spaces of ignorance and pressure. I feel alive in my body and willing/able to integrate more and more of something underneath. The process of becoming, the sharing and showing of oneself speaks a language. My language is of the heart. My wounds are collective pain held deep within the bones of the earth in my body. Follow and frighten the parts long laying dormant and open them into a space of heat for healing and welcome comfort. I want to feel safe. I want to feel at ease. I know what it's like now to not have terror running through my body at all times. I have felt the simple pleasures of being at home in my own skin. Last page. What am I doing here? finding a way forward. What will today bring? Food, time with my mama, sharing on Patreon, and maybe some more. What would the more be? Start with a post of written words and go from there. A message and practice to show up within your own safety and presence. Let the core of your heart be known. Many of us have to hide parts of ourselves, and while I advocate for personal privacy, hiding out of fear is not the same thing. We must show ourselves if we ever want to be loved for who we are. Otherwise, it is just people's ideas of us that get connection, and our inner life and truth are bypassed for outer presentation. When inner and outer states match, that's great. Yet, when they are misaligned or in conflict, we may be hurting ourselves by pretending otherwise. Seek to know thyself. This is the way forward. This is your only way forward. Go within and share and show without. Yeah, so those are my pages for today. I used to read my pages and then go into processing my pages. And now it's almost like I'm finding that I'm processing with you guys or presenting and processing and prepping, I guess, before I share my pages, which is an interesting shift that I've noticed happen. And that's sort of what I found today. But something wants me to stay on a little longer and process some of the pages too. I think maybe relating it to sort of collective understandings of how we hide ourselves in plain sight often. Sometimes we hide ourselves out of plain sight. This time during the pandemic has really showed me how much I don't trust people, how much social anxiety I have, and how much I don't like to leave my house. And being able to have space while I've been on unemployment, which is great. I've had a wash of time where I have not had to wake up and force myself into working somehow and then coming home, and I would just like kind of collapse afterwards and not be able to do much in the first 8-12 months, I would say, of the pandemic. I kind of just did that at home. I don't think I could have shown up for work if I had work to do. It was pretty deep dive into my body and into being with the pain that I hadn't been with before. And a lot of the pain that I've had has been collective pain as well, that we've been seeing upwelling inside of our communities across the globe and in the US, which is where I am. Of suppressed and otherized voices, of voices that are still being that there's just still so much oppression and abuse and active acts of what I consider and I believe to still be a form of genocide on certain peoples and groups. It feels really important to me to learn how to speak from a place that acknowledges that doesn't bypass that it is inclusive of that, and doesn't pretend like it's not a part of the very real pain that's happening right now. And at the same time, I also recognize that like I live in a world that is built upon certain systems that perpetuate that, and that if I don't figure out how to live somehow in my own body in relationship to those systems, I guess I don't know. That's just, I guess my intention is to find a way to live safely inside of my body while also navigating these violent systems. So this page is in practice and process. And this Patreon that I'm inviting you into is my way of trying to claim my own life and claim my own way of having some sort of a sustainable practice that I feel good about investing myself into, that I can also invite people into, to where they feel like maybe there's some sort of reciprocity that's happening, some sort of connection, and even guidance or teaching if that feels right, but really more invitational, because I feel like we're all our own guides and teachers, and we have to learn how to choose from the options and the structures that lay in front of us, to become our own artists of our life, and creators of our worlds. And while living in a very real world that might not support the journey for you finding that in a way that is fluid or easy, depending on the body you're born into, or the socioeconomic class that you happen to be born into. So this is my way of building some sort of resistance, resiliency, recovery for myself. So much recovery. I've had so much relational wounding from being a person in the world. I think we probably all have, but I don't want to live from that place anymore. And I don't want to do it by building armor. I want to do it by becoming more and more authentic with who I am, and finding more and more safe ways to share authentically. So if that's you too, or if you encourage others to do that, I'm looking to find just a way to connect. And whether that's just you watching the video, and that's great, or whether that's you making a comment or joining my Patreon, or sending me a private message, just sharing how it was for you to hear some of my pages or process, it would be great. But what I am shying away from, which is what I felt like all the other ways in which I was trying to approach like teaching or service, or I felt like there was a grasping or a neediness that I would feel from whether real or perceived, but I would feel this sort of like desperate grasp, or something that was looking to me almost like a guru or a teacher, or something to be coveted or owned. And that feels uncomfortable to me. That feels gross to me. I'm not interested in that. And if you felt like that before about anybody, not even necessarily me, like, know that that's a very human, addictive kind of thing that we go into when our own lives and our own connections don't feel like we have space to really be our full selves, and we don't have a sense of love and belonging. So I want to foster a sense of love and belonging where nobody feels like they have to reach outside of themselves or be addictive towards me, or to each other, or to the loved ones in your lives, or idols in the world. But that we can be inspiration for one another. We can find mirrors and reflections of who we already are, who we want to be, with sort of how we connect to other people we see in the world, and maybe try to bring more of that of ourselves up and forward, if that's wanting and crying and calling to be seen or expressed. So and also, some people don't like to be seen and expressed, and they just like to be in their little hubbub. And if that's you, I want to advocate for that too. That's okay. You don't have to share more than you want, ever, not ever. So, anyways, if you enjoyed this, give me a like and a subscribe. It feels weird to say that. I'm getting used to it. And please feel free to share this video with someone you love if you think it would resonate with them. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.